The good manners you were raised on are the reason toxic people select you. Not influence you, not annoy you, select you. The way a pickpocket selects the man checking his phone. And this is not a rare event anymore. Toxic people have multiplied. The workplace runs on them. Group chats are farms for them. And here is the part polite men are not supposed to say out loud, so I will say it slowly. Some of them share your surname. Some of them sat at your table growing up. Some of them will sit at your table this Christmas, and you will pass them the salt, because that is what you were trained to do. Think back to what you were actually taught. Answer when you are spoken to. Explain yourself. Do not make it awkward. Smile. He is only joking. You were 6, maybe 7, and you were being trained to hand your reactions over on request. And you learned it beautifully. That is the problem. Years later, a colleague pulls the same lever in a meeting and watches the 6-year-old answer. Same speed, same obedience, better shoes. But the training had a second lock, and this one is worse. You were also taught never to name it. Never tell a toxic person what they are. Keep the peace, rise above it. So you did the only thing left. You went to someone you trust. You laid the whole thing out, and they looked at you and said the sentence you have heard your entire life. That is just how he is. Ignore it. Understand what that sentence actually is. It is not advice. It is the toxic person's warranty, and everyone around them has been recruited to honor it, unpaid. Whole families run maintenance on one person's behavior and call it keeping the peace. There has never been a war going. There is a farm going, and you are not the farmer. So you cannot tell them what they are, and ignoring them does not work, which means all of it has to go somewhere, and it does. It goes home with you. 3 days after they said it, you are standing in the shower, still arguing with them, and this time you are winning. The perfect line finally shows up, too late, to an empty room. And that is the real cost of these people. They said one sentence. It took them 2 seconds. You have now spent 3 days on it, and they have not thought about you once. That is not a personality problem. That is a mechanism, and it has been running since you were a child. Now here is the part you are not going to like, so I will be direct with you, because comfort is not what you came here for. You are not a victim of that mechanism. You are its most reliable component. You have been running it yourself, on time, every time, for years. The good news is contained in the bad news. A machine you built is a machine you can shut down. Here is what this video does about it. 7 silent behaviors. 7 behaviors that make the people who feed on reaction genuinely uncomfortable around you because you have stopped being food. None of them require you to say a single word. None of them require a confrontation, a speech, or a family summit. 3 of them start working inside a week. And the 4th one, I will tell you now, is the one that undoes the training entirely. It will feel almost cruel the first time you use it. It is not. It is just the first thing you have done since childhood that was not in their script. But before you can burn the menu they have been reading you from, you need to see it. So we start there. Here is the menu. This is the part where you stop being comfortable because you are going to recognize yourself on it. A toxic person meets a new man and runs 3 tests in the first 10 minutes, not consciously. It is reflex. The way you check a door is locked. Test 1 is the small joke at your expense, thrown out light, watching your face. Test 2 is the interruption, cutting across you mid-sentence to see whether you stop or keep going. Test 3 is the favor asked too early, before any friendship exists to earn it, watching how fast you say yes. The joke landed and you laughed. You did not want to laugh. You laughed to keep it smooth, and you paid. The interruption came and you stopped talking, told yourself you were being polite, and you paid. The favor came too early and you said yes, because no needed a reason you did not have ready, and you paid. 3 tests, 3 payments, and the file is written. It says, this one pays out. You did not fail that assessment because you are weak. You failed it because you are fast. Your training fires before your judgment does, and they can see it fire. That is strangers. Family is worse, for a reason nobody says plainly, so I will. A toxic family member does not need to test you. They installed the buttons. They wrote your file, and their tests are not tests at all. They are maintenance checks, run to confirm the old machinery still works. You know them when you hear them. The role assignment announced to the table as if it were the weather. You were always the sensitive one. The old story, retold at every gathering, the one where you were 12 and it did not go well for you, told again not because it is funny but because it renews your rank. The comparison dropped in gently. Look how well your cousin is doing. And the most respectable weapon in the arsenal, the one nobody has ever called a weapon to your face. Advice you did not ask for. Understand unsolicited advice for what it is. It is not information. Information arrives when you ask and leaves when you decline. Unsolicited advice is a rank check. It exists to confirm that your decisions still report to them for review. Your career, your money, your marriage, your children, all of it submitted upward, assessed, and returned with corrections. And every time you argue with it, defend against it, or explain why you are not taking it, the check comes back positive. Still reports for review, machinery confirmed. Now do something for me. Find the face. Not toxic people in general, the one adult who taught you that a man answers when spoken to and explains himself on demand. You already have the face. Everyone does. Hold it, because we are coming back to that person before the end. And when we do, you will be looking at them from a different height. Knowing you are on the menu changes nothing. Awareness is just a man watching himself pay out and calling it insight. What changes the file is doing something they have never seen you do. And for that we need the man who wrote the counter manual 500 years ago. His name gets used as an insult. Machiavellian, cold, scheming, cruel. And the gap between what he wrote and what he is accused of is the most useful thing in this video. Machiavelli wrote for men who kept losing to people more ruthless than themselves. And the line everyone quotes at him, the one the whole insult hangs on, is that it is better to be feared than loved. You have heard it. It sounds like a license for cruelty. Read the actual chapter and the meaning inverts. Love, he said, is held by a chain of obligation, and because people calculate, the chain is broken the moment breaking it pays. Fear is held by a dread of consequences that never lets go. He was not describing terror, he was describing cost. A man is feared, in his sense, when moving against him carries a price nobody can predict. Regular viewers will notice something. This channel has already taken one law from that same chapter. The law of distance came from its love side, the discovery that visible care is replaceable care. The law of Menace is the same chapter's other blade. Distance protects what you love by refusing to advertise it. Menace protects you by refusing to be priced. Machiavelli put them on the same page. This channel is reuniting them. Because Menace is not aggression. Aggression is loud, and loud is cheap, and loud is exactly what toxic people are built to metabolize. Menace is the quiet, unadvertised fact that you are no longer a fixed price. 7 behaviors raise that price. We start with the one that costs nothing and feels like dying. Silent behavior 1. The declined invoice. Toxic people do not primarily read your words, they read your timing. The speed of your reaction is the meter they trust, because speed cannot be faked and words can. The jab lands, your answer comes back instantly, defending, laughing, explaining, and the meter reads full, payout confirmed. So you break the timing. The jab lands, and for 2 full seconds you do nothing. You do not fill the silence. You do not produce the face. You look at them the way a man looks at a bill he has decided not to pay, and then you respond to something else entirely, or to nothing. That is the declined invoice, not hesitation. Hesitation is struggling to find the payment. This is finding it instantly, reviewing it, and refusing it. They can tell the difference from across a room. I will be honest about the 2 seconds. They feel like dying. Everything you were trained into screams that the silence is rude, that you are making it awkward. That scream is not your conscience. It is the training defending itself, because the training knows this is the behavior that ends it. The greatest declined invoice in recorded history happened in Paris in 1809. Napoleon summoned his minister, Talleyrand, and screamed at him in front of the court for half an hour. Insults, threats, the full performance, ending with the most famous line of abuse of the age, that Talleyrand was nothing but filth in a silk stocking, and Talleyrand stood completely still, no color, no answer, no weather at all. He let the most powerful man alive perform to a dead room, and when it was over, he walked out slowly and murmured to the courtiers, "What a pity that so great a man should be so badly brought up." Napoleon had spent everything and collected nothing, and every man in that room understood that the minister was the more dangerous of the two. The invoice arrived from an emperor, and it came back declined. Because the minister lived by a rule he never once said out loud, what he would not explain, an emperor could not collect. Silent behavior 2. The undefended decision. I know a man who cannot make a choice without holding a small trial for it. Every decision arrives with a defense attached. Why he took the job, why he bought that car, why he is not coming on Saturday, delivered before anyone asked, restated when anyone frowns, escalating if anyone pushes, forcing you to see his reasons, needing you to see his reasons. He thinks it makes him look considered. Here is what it actually makes him. Quick prey. The wolves in his life worked out years ago that his decisions are not decisions. They are proposals, permanently open for negotiation to anyone willing to frown at them. If you are like him, and in at least one relationship you probably are, then you have never once closed a door in your life. You have only ever left doors ajar with a written apology taped to them. Here is the mechanism. Justification invites jurisdiction. The moment you defend a decision, you have conceded that the other person was owed a vote, and a decision that is owed votes can be overturned. Your reasons are not protection. They are inventory handed over free, to be used the moment they have thought about them longer than you have. So the behavior is this. Decisions leave your mouth finished. That does not work for me. I am not coming. We have decided. And when they stand in the silence waiting for the reasons, the silence stays where it is. It will feel rude. It is not. Rude is loud. This is just closed. A door that clicks shut is not insulting anyone. It is simply no longer open, and you do not owe the wall a lecture. Silent behavior 3. The returned parcel. Now the advice, the opinions on your life you never requested, the corrections to your career, your money, your parenting, offered warmly, at volume, in front of others. You have been handling these wrong your entire life, and so has everyone who ever told you to just ignore them. You cannot ignore a rank check because irritation is still a response, and you must not argue with it because arguing concedes the one thing the ritual exists to establish, that your decisions are up for review. Argue with the advice and you have already lost, whatever you say, because the review is now in session and you called the meeting. So you treat it as what it is, a parcel you did not order. And a parcel you did not order does not get opened and does not get argued with. It gets returned to sender, unopened, with 2 words, noted, thanks. And then, and this is the entire behavior, nothing else. No adoption, no rebuttal, no explanation of why your way is fine. The advice arrives, is acknowledged the way a delivery is acknowledged, and dies in the doorway. Watch what this does at a family table. The ritual has run for decades and always produced something, agreement or argument, all of it confirmation. Noted, followed by you calmly continuing your conversation, produces nothing. They cannot escalate because there is nothing to escalate against. You did not refuse the advice. You did not accept it. You receipted it. For the first time in the history of the ritual, the rank check comes back unreadable. What arrives without invitation leaves without effect. Quick pause. If you have ever sat in one of these dynamics thinking you were the unreasonable one, tell me in the comments which test you now recognize being run on you. The joke, the interruption, the early favor, the role assignment, the old story, the advice, full sentence, name the test, because a pattern you can name is a pattern you can refuse. Then stay with me, because the 4th behavior is the one I promised in the first minute, the one that undoes the training itself. Silent behavior 4. The dead room. You stop answering on command. Every toxic dynamic contains a summons, the message that demands a reply, the question fired across a room that expects your voice to jump. The name called in that particular tone, and underneath it, the oldest rule you carry, that when you are summoned, you answer. That rule was installed before you could examine it. It no longer feels like obedience. It feels like manners. It feels like who you are. It is neither. It is a command line, and you have been running it on demand for decades without once asking who wrote it. The dead room is this. The summons goes out, and nothing comes back. Not a refusal. A refusal is still a reply, and a reply is still obedience wearing a scowl. Nothing. The message sits read and unanswered. The loaded question finds no voice waiting for it. The name is called, and the man who used to come running is simply not there. England was ruled for 44 years by a woman who understood this better than anyone alive. Elizabeth I spent her entire reign under summons. Parliament demanded she marry, foreign kings demanded an answer, councillors demanded a successor, decade after decade. Any answer, yes, no, maybe, would have handed someone leverage. So she gave the summons nothing and called it, in her own words, an answer answerless. The most powerful men in Europe spent 40 years leaning toward a reply that never came, and the not knowing kept every one of them managed. Her silence was not absence. It was the busiest instrument in the kingdom. Now go back to the face I asked you to find, the adult who trained you to answer on command. Look at that training from where you stand now and understand what it was actually for. It was never for your benefit. It was for the comfort of the household. You were taught to be convenient, and you have been convenient ever since, in rooms that person has never entered, for people that person will never meet. The dead room ends the convenience, and I warned you it would feel almost cruel. Here is why. It feels like breaking a contract, but you never signed it. It was signed on your behalf by people managing their own comfort before you were old enough to read the terms. Declining to answer on command is not cruelty. It is you declining, for the first time, to honor an agreement you were never a party to. They will escalate. The summons will get louder, the tone sharper, because machinery that has always received its coin does not accept an empty slot quietly. We will handle that escalation before the end. But the behavior itself is settled. Your voice is not a public utility. It does not switch on because someone called your name. What I will not answer, I no longer owe. Silent behavior 5. The ledger. Toxic behavior runs on fog. Every manipulation you have ever absorbed depended on a later moment where the facts went soft. That is not what I said. You are remembering it wrong. It was a joke. Why do you always do this? The fog is not a side effect of the argument. The fog is the weapon. A man who cannot hold the sequence of events can be sold any version of them, and toxic people are, above everything else, editors of the past. Cardinal Richelieu ran France for 18 years on the answer to that weapon. He kept files on allies, on enemies, on men who did not yet know they were either. The line attributed to him has survived 400 years because everyone who heard it believed it instantly. Give me 6 lines written by the most honest of men, and I will find something in them to hang him. Whether he said it hardly matters. The most dangerous men in France governed themselves around what the cardinal might have written down. Nobody ever saw the files. They did not need to. The known existence of accurate records changed the price of every lie in the kingdom. Your version is smaller and quieter. You remember the date. You remember the exact words. Not the gist, the words. You remember the order things happened in. And you do not brandish any of it, because a ledger waved around is desperation, a man begging to be believed. You demonstrate it once, calmly, without heat. On Tuesday, you said the meeting was at 4. It is in the message. I am not upset. I am just not confused. That sentence does not win the argument. Winning arguments is the shower, and you are finished with the shower. What it does is end the fog permanently, because a person who edits the past cannot operate on a man who keeps receipts. Their method requires your memory to be negotiable. Demonstrate once that it is not, and watch how carefully they begin to speak around you, and make the cardinals discipline your own quiet vow. What you will not explain, they cannot collect. What I remember, they cannot rewrite. Silent behavior 6. The closed door. Every time someone showed you what they were, you told them. You confronted. You explained your disappointment. You delivered the speech. You thought that was strength. It was a manual. A man who explains why he is pulling away has just published the instructions for pulling him back. The closed door makes no announcement. Access is simply reduced. The replies get shorter, then sparser. The invitations stop. The warmth that used to be automatic is absent, and no speech accompanies the absence. This channel has a whole video on this mechanism, the law of the closed door, And if this is the behavior that just landed hardest, that video is your next 30 minutes, because this is only its opening move. The unannounced withdrawal is unbearable to a toxic person for a simple reason. They cannot argue with a door that was never declared shut. No speech to rebut, no crack to lever open. Just less of you, arriving quietly, with no explanation attached. And explanation was the only tool they had. What I close, I do not announce. Before the 7th, one question, and it unlocks everything. Who benefits? When you took your problem to someone you trusted, and they said, "That is just how he is," ignore it. Who benefited? Not you. You walked away with the problem intact, and your instinct overruled. Trace it honestly. The toxic person benefited, warranty renewed for another year, and the advisor benefited, because now nothing has to change, and nothing has to get awkward. The peace everyone praises so highly was never free. It was cheap for all of them and expensive for exactly one man. You were the subsidy. The whole room stayed comfortable because you agreed to absorb the cost, and they named your absorption maturity so you would keep providing it. Sit with that, because it reframes all 7 behaviors. Nobody is asking you to become aggressive. You are being asked to stop paying a bill that was quietly assigned to you by the people who benefited from your silence. That is all Menace is, the end of the subsidy. Silent behavior 7, the unannounced move. The first 6 take you off the menu. The 7th changes how a room treats you before you speak, and it is where everything converges. You act without consulting the room, and you let results make the announcement. You do not float the idea to gauge faces. You do not test the water with hints. You do not convene the committee. You decide privately, and you move, and the room finds out what you did by seeing that it is done. In December 1740, a 28-year-old king, whom Europe had dismissed as a flute-playing dilettante, marched his army into the richest province of the Austrian Empire. No declaration, no demands, no congress, no warning through ambassadors. Frederick of Prussia simply moved in winter when armies did not move, and Europe learned of the decision the way everyone learns about the decisions of serious men after the fact, as an accomplished thing. You do not need to approve of the man or the war to learn what every chancellery learned that month. From that winter on, Frederick's silence made rooms nervous, because his quiet now meant something. It meant that somewhere, something had already been decided. That is the end point of the 7. A toxic person's power lives upstream of your decisions, in the gap between your intention and your action, because the gap is where the hook goes in. Close the gap, and there is nowhere left to insert anything. Do this 2 or 3 times, and the room shifts physically. They learn that when you go quiet, it is not because you have nothing to say, it is because they are about to find out. That is fear in Machiavelli's exact sense. Not that you are frightening, that you are an unpredictable cost, and nobody can read the meter. A man who moves without announcing cannot be managed before he moves. Now, what happens when you deploy this? Because if I send you out expecting smooth, the first storm will send you straight back into the training. Start with the declined invoice. Day 1, cheapest behavior, 2 seconds of held silence, and it retrains you before it retrains them. Do not start with the dead room. I know it is the one you want, but it is heavy machinery. Earn it with the first 3. Then the escalation arrives. When payouts stop, a toxic person does not shrug and leave. They get louder, bigger provocations, clumsier reaches, charm switched back on, then anger, then charm again. This has a name, an extinction burst, and it is the most misread moment in the process because it looks exactly like proof that the behaviors are making things worse. It is proof of the opposite. Remember Napoleon screaming at a man who gave him nothing. The burst is the machine dying loudly, pressing every button in a panic to find the one that still pays. Hold flat through it and it burns out, and what follows is the quiet you have wanted your whole life. Crack, hand them one good reaction, and you have taught them that escalation is the key that opens you. The burst is the whole game compressed into one bad week. Hold. Last warning, and it is the mistake that unravels all 7 at once. Do not explain what you are doing. The moment you announce, "I have decided to stop reacting to you," every silent behavior converts back into a performance, a reaction with extra steps. The 7 are not moves you declare. They are the temperature you now run at. Explanation is the one door left in the wall, and you have spent this whole video learning to stop opening it. So, back to the menu. In the first minute I told you that you were being read from a menu, and that before you could burn it, you had to see it. You have seen it now. The tests strangers run, the maintenance checks family runs, the advice that was never advice. And every item on that menu had the same hidden ingredient, you. The joke needed your laugh. The summons needed your voice. The advice needed your defense. The fog needed your doubt. Take the reactions away, and the menu is blank because it was never a list of their moves. It was a list of your responses, and you were the one holding the pen. The 7 behaviors are not 7. They are one behavior wearing 7 faces. The declined invoice, the undefended decision, the returned parcel, the dead room, the ledger, the closed door, the unannounced move. One decision, made 7 ways. My reactions are mine. They do not switch on when a coin drops. They are no longer for sale. You built the machine. That was the hard sentence at the start, and I meant it, and here is the mercy folded inside it. You built it as a child, running a program written for other people's comfort, before you could read the terms. But a machine you built is a machine you can shut down. Nobody is coming to switch it off for you. Nobody was ever coming. That was always the bad news, and secretly the best news available, because the one hand on the switch is yours. It was always yours. What I will not explain, they cannot collect. Say it once, out loud if you have the room to, then say it with your silence tomorrow, where it counts. Type it in the comments if you are committing to it. The men who write it down are the men who do it, and I read every one. This is your cold awakening.